Hello, and welcome to my very late January wrap-up. You might be wondering, why is this so late? Normally your videos are pretty not on time, but better than this, and there's a couple of reasons. Number one, the Olympics. That is happening, and I am obsessed. If you follow me on Twitter, you already know that. And second of all, I was sick for a bit. And thirdly, I'm starting a new job. I actually had one of my first days today, so I'm a little behind. Anyways, here we are for a January wrap-up. I'm going to talk about all the books that are in January. So in January, I read a total of 10 books, which is super great, which is 3,375 pages, which is just... I don't want to talk about that. And I gave an average rating of 4.2, which is like, I think actually my average rating overall. So like, I'm pretty happy with January, despite this video going up very late. So I opened January with The Power by Naomi Alderman. This was a pick for Books and Quills Book Club. I'll leave the information for that down below. And like, a lot of people have really loved this book. It's blurb by Margaret Atwood. Apparently, I think that she, like, consulted for the book. And, like, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a good piece of fiction. I didn't think the writing was particularly good. I didn't like it. It's nothing new. I also didn't like the frame narrative. I feel like that was supposed to add things to the whole entire story, but I found that it was just kind of distracting to the plot. But yeah, so I rated this 2 out of 5 stars. It's not something that I'll read again, and not something I would recommend. After I read that, of course, I went into a little bit of a reading slump, so I decided to pick up this book by Cary, As You Wish, which is his memoir about the making of The Princess Bride. My parents gave this to me for my birthday several years ago, and I was really nervous to read it because I love The Princess Bride. It's one of my favorite books and one of my favorite movies. And this edition has this really nice poster on it too, so hopefully you can see all that, but it's really lovely. And I don't know exactly why, because I do love him as an actor as well. I think he's quite good, and he's also quite handsome. So that's his author portrait there. And like, this is probably one of the best memoirs I've read. It was really captivating and really drew you in. I just loved it. It adds a real lot to the movie as well. So if you're a fan of the movie, I would definitely recommend reading this book. It's just hilarious, and there's pictures, so that's super fun. Another fun thing about this book is that it was annotated by the rest of the cast, so even though Cary might be telling you something about The Princess Bride and his experience, someone else will come in and be like, yes, I also remember that, and it was hilarious. So I would recommend this to everyone. I rated it 5 stars, and I absolutely adored it. Then I read Clariel by Garth Nix. This is a prequel to the Old World series. I liked it. It's very similar to a lot of the other books in the series as far as content goes. I did find the main character a little bit annoying. She was like too obsessed with her idea of what she wanted, to be open to other possibilities, which I found a little frustrating because there were some things that she could have done that I think would have made her feel better, but she just kind of put the blinders on and put her head down. That was annoying, but I did enjoy it. I rated it 4 stars, and I am going to read the novella and the next book in the series. So I'm really looking forward to those, and yeah, 4 stars. Then I read the first book in the Song of the Lioness series by Tamora called Alanna, the First Adventure. I got the nice new editions. This was a really decent book. I really enjoyed it. I found out when I reread this that most of the things I remember about the series actually happened in this book, so that's kind of a little funny. But yeah, it was super great. It was really nice to go back into this world, and I rated it 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favorite books. If you're into fantasy, I would definitely recommend checking this out. Tamora Pierce is a wonderful author, and I'll be reading more of her books soon for the Tortall read-along. Then I decided to pick up The Just City by Jo Walton. This is a conceptual series about what would happen if we tried to make Plato's Republic work. So basically, both Apollo and his sister Athena decide that they want to try and do this thing. Athena had been thinking about it for a while, and Apollo was like, I want to understand people, so yeah, let's do this and put me in it. And it's basically, this is the story about the first generation that grew up. It was great. Socrates was in it. Like, it's everything that you would want from a book that's like this. I read the second book almost a little bit over a year ago, and I really enjoyed it. So I want to reread that and then read the third book, which is called Necessity. So a series review is coming up for this probably shortly, but it's a wonderful mix of sci-fi and philosophy, so if those are your things, definitely check this out. It's quite fantastic. I also rated this 5 out of 5. Then I decided to read my book pick of the month, which was The Possessed by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. I chose this book originally for this month thinking that it was shorter, because like, it doesn't look that big, but this sucker is 700 pages, and it was a time. I do like the material that these pages are made out of. They're very soft and very smooth, so it was a good reading experience. However, not my favorite book. I ended up rating it 3 stars. I enjoyed the narration, and I enjoyed it when I was reading it, but it wasn't a book that I wanted to pick up and read, and I found that it was just kind of like meandering and slow and a little bit boring at times. So, you know, I think it was a good book for my first Dostoyevsky. I will read more of his books. I did really enjoy this, and I'm looking forward to reading more, but yeah, it was a little ambitious, and I'm glad to have read it. Then I read the second book in the Song of the Lioness series, In the Hand of the Goddess. I did not like this one as much as the first. I feel a little bit betrayed by George. If you've read these books, you probably know what I mean. And I don't know, I love Alanna. I think that she's a super great character, but I feel like in this book she gets put in some pretty bad situations, and because it's YA and written for younger readers, I don't know if those situations come off as fully as they might in like an adult fantasy, but it's still really good, and I really enjoyed reading it. It covers a lot of ground. Like, I feel like it could have been 2 books, but it's just 1. And I rated it 4 stars, so I'm excited to continue on this series. There's only 2 left. I can see them from where I'm sitting right now, and hopefully I'll get to them quite soon. Then I decided to mix it up a bit by reading a graphic novel, and I read Princeless Raven, the Pirate Princess, Book 1, Captain Raven and the All-Girl Pirate Crew. So, like, this is exactly what the title says. It's about an all-girl pirate crew, and it's an amazing graphic novel. I love the art. There's like a lot of different sexualities represented within the graphic novel, and it's about lady pirates. Like, what more do you want? So highly recommend this. I think it's fantastic, and I really enjoyed reading it, and I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I do have the second volume, and hopefully I'll get to that within the next few months. Then I picked up Harry Potter, A History of Magic, the Spellbinding Companion to a Unique Exhibit. So this is published by the British Library, though on Goodreads it says it was published by J.K. Rowling, though she read nothing in this book. So basically it's all the curators talking about their exhibits and the history of science. As you may know, I studied the history of science in university, so like this is my jam. And I was quite impressed with it. A lot of the times I find things that are written about the history of science are just like not that good. Like, I've been halfway through Cosmos for a long time, and I've just been having a really hard time getting through it. They chose some really great art for here too. I just want to show you some nice pictures so you can see kind of what the book is like. Yeah, anyways, I've been struggling with Cosmos for a long time. There's just a fine line I find between scientific triumphalism, which is abundant in many novels about the history of science, and like a fact book where it's just listing off facts. And I think that this one reaches like a happy medium. It talks a lot about how cool science is, and there's a lot of facts, but it doesn't like, it's not overwhelming, and it's not triumphalist. So I really enjoyed this. I think it was fantastic. If you love Harry Potter and you like science, this is a really cool book to read. It links a lot of different things to magic and history. So if you like history, it's also great. And a lot of things that, if you're not familiar with the history of science, that you wouldn't necessarily link with Harry Potter. And there's a whole entire section on alchemy, so I mean, like, it's sold. Any King's student's gonna love this book. And perhaps any King's professor too. And finally, to finish out the month, I read the second book in the Nocturnus Magia series by Sylvia Izzo Hunter, Lady of Magick, and I rated it 5 stars. It was fantastic. Like the first book, I found the first 100 pages a little slow, but after that it was just like, and like absolutely amazing. I love this series so far. I cannot wait to read the third book. Unfortunately, I found out that Book Depository lost the book, so I'm gonna have to reorder it, which kind of sucks, but you know, it is what it is. But that's everything that I read for the month. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again soon.